Hello and welcome to Fit After 40. Our guest today is Erin Daniel. She is a UESCA certified running coach and a partner at Purely Driven Fitness in Nashville. It's a personal training company she runs with her husband and our former guest, Nick. They coach hybrid athletes. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Hey, thanks so much for having me. Happy to
Yeah,
be
thanks for
here.
talking with us. Now, you specialize in running, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
So
Um,
let's talk about your personal preferences on running. What do you like? Do you like road? Do you like trail? Do you like track?
I'm basically a road runner. I do a lot of track work, but even the track I tend to do on pavement. I don't know if you guys know that the Cornelia Fort Air Park in East
Absolutely.
Nashville.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, an old runway and it's paved and it's a little over a mile that loop, and I just do all my speed work there instead of going to a track because I just prefer the pavement. And I do a lot of when I race, I do a lot of road races, so I just like to kind of just keep, train on the same terrain basically.
Sure.
But
Absolutely.
yeah.
I love Cornelia Fort. My father is a retired airline pilot, and
Ah,
Cornelia Fort is where he learned to fly when he was
oh,
about
no way.
17 years old. So a lot of nostalgia there
Oh,
for us.
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's
I
cool.
love
It's
it
such a
there.
cool.
It's
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
it's a lot of
amazing.
fun.
Uh-huh.
So let's start talking about coaching. So when do you think a runner should hire a coach?
I mean, I think that it's really never too early to hire a coach, and it's never too late. We can always learn things, we can always get better. So whether you're a new runner that's just starting out, it's good to get some insight of what you can do, or whether you're a seasoned runner that just kind of wants to like get better or PR or BQ or something like that, and just need some advice or some motivation to get push you over, if you're plateauing. So yeah, it's always a good time.
What's your approach when you're starting with a novice runner, someone who's maybe never even done a 5K, distance, duration, that kind of thing? Where do you begin?
So I think with somebody that's like completely brand new, that's never, doesn't really exercise at all, I like to start with kind of like a walk run program. So maybe, just a little bit at a time. We start out with like walking a minute, running a minute, and then, 3 times a week we do this. Maybe I think 3 times a week is a good amount to kind of get people in the habit. And then just gradually increasing the runs. So the running portion is longer than the walking portion to the point where they can fully run without stopping. And a
Sure.
5K is a great place to start. It's a good goal to have. 5K is a great accomplishment. It's like a good distance to start out on. And for somebody that's not used to running, it's like, to run the 5K without stopping is a great place to start. So I don't really like to worry about, pace or
Hmm.
anything in that case.
Just keep moving.
Exactly.
And I think the 5K is a fun distance specifically because it's so inclusive. Like it's definitely an achievable goal for
Yeah.
pretty much anybody. Like any pretty much anybody can get to the point where they can finish it, and that sort of inclusivity just makes it more fun, I think, to me. The marathon is such a high goal, or even a half. Like a lot of people are really intimidated by that, but a 5K, that's very doable, right?
Absolutely. Yes, it's a great place to start. Yeah. And it's a fun distance. Yeah.
And when you're stepping up the training, let's talk about how you kind of change it up with a novice to intermediate runner in terms of let's say they've gotten to where they can run a 5K. So you're not run walking anymore. At this point, you're
Mhm.
trying to increase performance. Maybe take them to a half or a 10K or something. How would you structure that training program?
So if they're going to a half from that, or even a 10K, a little bit maybe more frequent, like a 4 days a week or something for a half. I like to add in certain, if they're still pretty new, like if they don't have a watch or whatever, we throw in things like fartleks or something, speed work in for one day. Or I like to do like a mix of things because I just, a lot of people think that running, is boring and monotonous, and it doesn't really have to be. There's just so many workouts that we can do
Sure.
to make it interesting, and it shouldn't be boring. It shouldn't be tedious, so I like to kind of switch things up a little bit with
Sure.
more intermediate runners, and that could be like a 5K training or a 10K
Hmm.
training.
So if you're taking someone to a half, and let's say we're doing 4 days a week, how do you split that up between kind of your zone two, your speed work, and so forth? How would you kind of divide that up? And I realize that you hire a coach for a personalized plan, so it'll be different for everybody, but maybe just a basic
Yes.
template.
Yeah, it is different for everybody. I mean, we can work around people's schedules, their experience levels. It's going to be different for everybody too, obviously. But yeah, I mean, for any program that I do, I kind of follow the 80-20 rule, and that's for like
Okay.
half marathon training, full marathon training, especially. I do like a lot of like easy runs. And then I'll do like a day of like speed work, which will be
Sure.
like interval training or something. And then I may have like, if it's full marathon training and I'm running 5 days a week, I'll do like one day of like maybe like a tempo run.
Hmm.
And then of course they'll have their long run
Yep. The
once a
zone two
week.
run.
Uh-huh, exactly. And then I'll have like a couple, zone two runs as well. Just like if
Sure.
I'm doing like I have somebody scheduled for like a speed day. I may do like the next day as like a recovery run.
Absolutely.
And then the next day would be like a hard day. And then the day after would be like a recovery run, that kind of thing.
Sure. Maybe now's a good opportunity to define what we mean when we say zone two, when we say tempo, when we say speed work. Maybe if you could talk a little bit about what those mean, just for those who may
Yeah,
not know.
sure. So zone two is, your heart rate zone. That's what we're
Yep.
talking about here. And that's like an easy paced run. So if we're going by perceived effort, it would feel kind of like a 2 out of 3 on a scale of 1 to 10. Like it should be easy to the point where you can have like a full conversation with
Sure.
somebody. I like to kind of like have people test it out where like you just breathe through your nose for like a couple of minutes, not the whole run,
Okay.
but just like so you're not like you don't want to be panting, or it shouldn't be difficult at all.
Sure.
You should feel like you should be able to just kind of run forever on
Right.
an easy run. Yeah. But if you're looking at your heart rate
Hmm.
zones, then if you're going by those metrics on the Garmin or whatever, then that would be like in the zone two heart rate
Right.
zone.
Right. 50 or 60% of your
Um,
max. Yeah.
right. Uh-huh. And then a tempo run RP would be kind of like a 6 out of 7. That would be comfortably hard, is how it would feel. And that would be around like a zone 4, like a high zone 3,
Hmm.
zone 4, kind of in that zone. And then
Right.
for speed work, I like to do a lot of like intervals. So I
Yep.
may do like, 400 meters at like 5K pace, or if we're going by RPE, then just like, like an 8 out of 9 or something
Right.
on that scale, with rests in between.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for.
If that makes sense.
No, makes perfect sense to me. I've always heard that for your easy runs, if you can talk comfortably, but it's challenging to sing, is kind of how you could rate it if you're not using, one of these.
Right. Yeah.
I've heard that as well. I think that's good. So when you're working with, now, obviously when you get into your more seasoned runners, they probably all have a Koros or a Garmin or something. But
Mhm.
do you prefer the rate of perceived exertion, or RPE, or do you prefer the hard, heart rate metrics that these devices provide?
I mean, there's pros and cons for both. Like it's easy to get so caught up in the metrics. Like I'm guilty of that too. Like, looking at your watch and, especially with heart rate zones, that's where it gets tricky because there's so many things that can affect the heart rate.
Sure. Sleep.
Exactly. There's internal things like sleep, like, did you have too much coffee in the morning? Are you stressed out? And then there's like the external things like the terrain that you're running on or the weather. Like if it's hot, your heart rate is gonna spike. Exactly. Heat.
Miserable.
100%. Yes. Yes. And the wrist watches, they're not always 100% accurate anyway. So they're very helpful going by the metrics, but you can't just look at that or it's going to drive you crazy. And a new runner too, it's like, their heart rate is going to spike if they're not used to exercise. Yeah. So, it's kind of, for new runners, I would always go by RPE, but,
sure. Okay.
Yeah. But at the same time, RPE is relative, like a lot of people don't really understand like the easy pace. I mean, I was guilty of that as well. Like when I hired my first coach a while ago, she was said, go out and run at easy pace. And I went out, I thought I was running at easy pace. And she was like, oh no, I was running probably a minute and a half faster than I should have been running. And I thought that was easy pace. So, both of them, if you use those things together, the metrics and the RPE, and kind of look at both, then that's helpful. But I think relying on one or the other gets kind of tricky.
Yeah. So both are imperfect, but both have their place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we can.
And I have noticed. I was going to say I have noticed. I've been doing a lot of running recently with a chest strap, and the difference between what your wrist base is and a chest strap is night and day, to the point where I don't even trust one on my wrist anymore.
I use a chest strap for serious training too.
Yeah.
Yeah. The chest straps are definitely more accurate than the wrist devices for sure.
So when you're coaching, of course, you do specialize in hybrid athletes, so I'm guessing I know the answer to this, but let's talk about cross training.
Yeah.
First off, do you recommend cross training for your athletes?
Absolutely. So there's different kinds of cross training. There's like cardio kind of cross training where, there's cycling and walking, even swimming, things that just kind of like you're still getting your heart rate up, but it's not as high impact on the body. So you're kind of giving like your legs a rest and your muscles and tendons and all that stuff in your feet and your legs and everything, but you're still getting your heart rate up. And which is important
absolutely
for any stage of runners, I think. And then of course strength training, which is so important, and it's just something that I think we all need to do, whether you're a runner or you're not a runner, but especially if you're a runner.
Tony, write that down, please.
I know that's my fault because I never strength trained. Though I will say, trail running basically is strength training and running at the same time, right?
It definitely hits muscles. Like I don't really trail run that often, but when I do, it hits muscles that like I didn't really even know that I had.
In his defense, he also swims and does yoga, so it's not like he just runs, but I still like to give him flack about it.
You'll be proud though, Chris. I have been incorporating strength training. I do a hike now that actually I do interval workouts during the hike. So I've got the woods and I'm doing some strength training in the woods. So I'm working.
Oh, excellent.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really important. And it will help you with like those hills and everything. Do some like squats and all that, strengthen the glutes, everything. It's going to help you and your running too. It really
we were talking about this with Nick, and he and I both like, which is probably the least popular lower body, the split squat with, I use kettlebells when I do it. That everybody hates, and he and I seem to like it. So at least we agree on that.
Yes, he makes me do those, and I'm never that happy with him, though.
Nobody ever loves them.
Yeah,
but they're very effective.
And
if you're doing single leg, you don't have to do very many of them before you've gotten what you need to get done.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I like that part. I like the efficiency of it. So,
Yeah, true.
so while we're on the topic of kind of active recovery, let's talk a little bit about recovery strategies, if you don't mind. Today, I did speed work yesterday. I did 20 miles at an easy pace on the bike today. So that was my thing. But what do you do with your clients? What do you recommend for active recovery?
Yeah, a lot of like I was saying before, like I like to break it up as far as like on a hard day, the next day should definitely be like an easy run recovery. Bike, that's a good thing to do. You can do like a cross training even if you don't want to run. But if it is going to be a run, I always put like an easy or a recovery run
Sure.
after like a hard workout. Stretching, I'm not the best at stretching myself, I must admit, but
Same.
that's, I think we're all a little guilty of that, but
Yeah.
but I know we should be stretching and foam rolling. I have a Theragun, which is great that I like to use for recovery, and yeah.
I have one that I should probably use more.
Uh-huh.
Truth
Yep,
be
yep,
told.
yep. If that'll help, that I hate foam rolling, so I'd rather do the Theragun.
The incorporation of the stretching, though, yeah, I've been having to toss that in recently. And I'm married to a yoga instructor, so I mean, I should do
Ah,
stretching, and she was always on my case. And I got in from my run yesterday. I was just relaxing, taking a shower, and she's like, it was like, Tony, have you stretched? I was like, no. And I was like, got comfortable again. She's like, you better go stretch right now. And she just made me do it. But,
oh,
it
that's
really is
great.
so important to do it because, the long-term injuries that I have been getting from not stretching are actually pretty intense.
Yes.
Yeah, no, you're lucky you have somebody there like pushing you to stretch. That's great. You should listen to your wife.
I should.
I'll make Emma take notes on that as well while we're at it. I've stretched before. That counts, right? Yeah, yesterday I stretched. Yeah, it was like 3 days ago, but I did it, so it's fine.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, it is important though, yeah.
So, while we're on the topic of recovery, nutritionally, protein shakes. Sure. What do you do? What do you recommend as far as nutrition coaching goes?
After long runs, yeah, protein shakes. I always have a protein shake after a run. Long run, short run, I always have one. That's like my after run meal, electrolytes. And then as far as nutrition before runs, I'm like a creature of habit as far as like I always have a baked potato. That's my long run meal. I have it every time. Exactly. So yeah, I usually do carbs before a long run and then protein shakes after every run for recovery. Yep.
And
Do you also subscribe to a plant-based diet?
Yes, I do. Yep. I've been vegan for a little over 10 years now.
oh wow.
Yeah.
So, what are your favorite protein sources?
We eat a lot of tofu. That's
Sure.
like the big thing in our house. Tempeh, seitan. Nick is the cook in the house, so I'm very lucky that, he's very, got to get your protein. So he makes all the good food.
That's great.
So I'm lucky in that way.
So, if you don't mind, we could maybe shift the topic to footwear a little bit to gear.
Sure.
Obviously, someone who's just getting into it, they're going to go buy a pair of Nikes or something, just off the shelf. Where do you start with footwear with a new client? Do you send them to a running store for professional fitting?
Yeah, I do. I think shoes are so important. You have to have the right one for your foot. And these people that work in these stores are fantastic. They're so great at doing what they do. Like, they watch you run, they can see how you land, and they make excellent recommendations as whether, your foot is rolling in or rolling out. They can suggest what shoe would fit best for your foot strike. And yeah.
Do you tend to send your clients to a store, or would you make a recommendation like, hey, have you considered an insole? Have you considered a wider toe box? Or maybe you tape their foot if they're having a blister problem. I don't know. I'm just, would you do that, or would you send them to a running store?
I usually send them to a running store. Most of my clients are actually virtual, so it's easier, it's, I leave it to them, the professionals at the running
Leave it to the
store.
pros.
Yeah, they know what they're doing.
And obviously shoes, they could address certain issues like pronating, like you mentioned. But if you do observe a foot strike pattern that is not optimal, do you have drills you suggest? Like maybe somebody's heel striking too much. Do you have drills that you'd put them on at the track to help correct that?
Like a lot of times actually, when people pronate, you can fix it a little bit because they don't have enough strength. It could be like a muscle imbalance.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, so like you can do things like walking on your heels to strengthen your feet. You can do things like calf raises. It can, strengthening your all the way up to your glutes can help with that. So,
I never thought about it like that. That's really
yeah.
interesting.
Strength training again.
Yes, indeed. What else would you look for when you're analyzing a client's technique, whether they're a new 5K runner or trying to qualify for Boston? I mean, just what else do you look for technique?
As far as form,
As far as
maybe?
what can we fix? What can we work on here?
Yeah. I think that there's certain things that you can always like fix with your form and everything, but I just think that like people all have their own style of running. You know
Sure,
what I mean?
sure.
Like there's certain ways that we can make ourselves more efficient. Like we don't want to like overstride. But I think that like your body kind of, fixes itself to be the most efficient that it can. So yeah, I was watching the Boston Marathon this year, and the woman that like, you hear about like running form and stuff. It's like you try to keep your arms next to your body when you run and don't cross them. And the woman that ran this year, she was like, I don't know if you watched it, but her arms were flailing all around and everything. So, I just think, yeah, that we all have our own form and
Sure.
style when we run, and yeah, there's little tweaks that we can do to make it better, but it's
I think that's, I always want people to run, and I'm always trying to get people into running, and that's a good point. As I think so many people get focused on just some like insignificant things like, oh, my form or my foot strike and stuff like that. And that keeps them from actually just getting out the door and doing the running, because the most important thing I have found myself personally from running is getting out the door. I mean, that's
absolutely, yeah, unless you're doing something crazy that's gonna cause injury or whatever, then yeah, just run. And like I said, if there's little things that can be tweaked, great. But yeah, I agree with you. That's the important thing.
When it comes to shoes, I like the wider toe box of Ultras. What do you have brands that you prefer? Anything you
Personally,
recommend?
I'm a Brooks Brooks fan. Like, I love Brooks. Ultras, I know people swear by Ultras because of the wider toe box. Me personally, like the wide toe box, my foot is just, it moves around so much that it tears up my foot. So
Oh, wow.
anything with, like Hoka's even for me have like a wider toe box that just tear up my feet. So yeah, some people love that, and some people like, it's just everybody's feet are different, and it's really, personal preference. It's, that's the most important thing. They can like,
Sure.
people can suggest things to kind of fix your foot strike or whatever, like we talked about when you go to a running store. But the most important thing really is just trying on a pair of shoes, and they have to feel comfortable. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like that you can test them out at these stores, they'll let you go for a little run, and
Yeah.
there should never be like you know, like, oh, this feels okay. This is a little bit snug over here, but it'll break in. And no, if it'll never, it's not a pair of cowboy boots. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're running shoes. They don't break in really. So, you know, if you have any question, just try another pair. They just need to be comfortable. That's the main, most important thing with shoes, I think.
I find that interesting too, because I think that in the shoe market right now, there's the neglect of the narrow-footed runner. And Brooks actually does a great job. Actually, I just ran a first run in that Brooks Catamount, the new super thin trail shoe they had yesterday, and it fits my foot like a glove, but like an ultra for
Ah,
me. It's just, yeah, it just slides all over the place. Very
yeah.
uncomfortable, big blisters, tearing and stuff like that.
Yes.
I just can't do it.
Same. Yep. Same. But again, yeah, it's just a personal preference, what you
Sure.
know, what you like on your foot. And some people love the wide toe box. But yeah, I'm with you. My foot does not like it. Go
I
ahead.
used to run in Brooks, and at mile 4 or 5, they would start to feel really tight, even if I sized up. So
Ah, yeah,
the wider toe box opened up new distances for me that just were not fun before.
right.
Because
Well, that's
prior
great.
to that, I kind of capped my runs at 5-6 miles. That was really about it.
Wow. See
So
what
it
a
made a
good
big
pair
difference
of
for me.
shoes. Yep, good pair
Yeah.
of shoes to
Yeah.
do that, right?
So get a professional fitting. That's the
Yes, yeah,
takeaway.
absolutely. Yep.
So going back to recovery, when you're taking somebody, let's say marathon training, let's say you're taking somebody, maybe they want to improve their marathon time or go from a half to a full. So this is not your novice runner. This is someone that you're really trying to dial in.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that training plan. So you have them running 5 days a week?
Yeah, yeah, 5 days usually. Four, you could do four, but usually 5 days. And it could, you know, depending on where we are in training, it can be from, you know, 25 to 30 miles. And then at
Okay.
peak, it could be like 40 to 50 miles
Sure.
during peak. Yeah, but again, it just depends on the experience, your availability. But
Big
yeah,
factor for people over 40. Lot of people have kids at home. You know,
yeah,
certainly we all have work constraints, so the availability is a big one.
it
How
is.
would you adapt this to somebody that does have some serious time constraints? Maybe they don't have 5 days to dedicate. What do you, if you really have to laser focus it? Let's say we've got a couple of days after work, and then maybe a long day Saturday. How would you split that up?
I probably do like a speed day and then easy runs. And then, you know, you can always do kind of like workouts within workouts. So like, you know, for the long runs, they're mainly easy, right? And then at certain, maybe not every week, but every other week, maybe I throw in like, you know, in the middle of a 15-mile run, just do like a 3-mile tempo in the middle of
Okay.
it, kind of thing to kind of, yeah.
Sure.
So you're getting a little, if you don't have as many days or as much time, you're getting the tempo run as well.
Sure. You're still checking your boxes. You just have to check them a little more deliberately, I suppose.
Yeah.
So, and you know, a lot of people, including myself prior to this year, really neglected speed work. You know, I would just go run. I would run at a comfortable pace, 10-minute miles, you know, and I would run until I was tired, and then I would turn around. And I found that I plateaued pretty quickly doing that. So, can you talk about the strategy and benefits of speed work?
Yeah, you know, there's different workouts that you can do during speed training. There's workouts that kind of focus on like threshold runs. So basically you're running at a certain speed and it's kind of teaching your body, it's flooding your body basically with the lactic acid, and then it's
Yep.
teaching your body how to clear the lactic acid more efficiently. And so, yeah, there's different things like that that you can do that makes your body more efficient. That the speed work does. And yeah, like I like to do intervals like that, so it's
Sure.
not as overwhelming.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're doing speed work, how long would the sprint last? Are you doing 400 meters? Are you doing 100 meters? But in between, or sorry, each interval, how long would it be, or does it just depend?
It depends really. I mean, and I do them at different paces as well. So like I do sometimes like progressive runs where like you'll start out doing 400 meters, say at like 5K pace, and then you'll do 800 meters a little faster, and then you'll do 1,000 meters even faster. So you're getting used to like getting faster the more fatigue that you're getting. So you kind of training yourself to finish the race strong. Yeah,
Okay.
there's a bunch of different little fun workouts to do on speed day. I
Sure.
love speed day.
Yeah, yesterday was mine, and I would do sprint as hard as I could, but less than a minute. 5-minute mile pace, but very short bursts, and then I would dial it
Yes.
back to like 11-minute mile pace and to recover, and then do it again. I did that 6 times. It was about 6 miles, but I was completely smoked at the end of 6 miles.
Yeah. Usually I don't do like a full-on sprint for the speed work. I like strides a lot, which
Okay.
I can do like I'll program those at the end of an easy run. So
Okay.
like just like on a recovery day or whatever, just strides 4 times, 25 seconds, and that just kind of get your body moving faster, used to turning the legs faster, and yeah.
And if you've got someone running 5 days a week, are they taking 2 full rest days, or are you going to have them doing strength training or cross training one of those days?
It depends on the person. I
Okay.
mean, yeah, it really depends on the person. Like me personally, when I'm training, I usually only have one rest day, and I schedule it so like my leg day is farthest away from my long run, and I'll do double workouts, but I make sure that they're easy, and then I do an upper body on the same day, that kind of thing. But when you start like, you have little training pockets. Like if you're training for a marathon, then I'll pull back on the strength work and,
Right.
maybe only do 3 days a week instead of 4. And yeah, so it just depends on the person
And on the goal.
exactly. Yeah. And where they're at in the training and yep.
Sure. So I'm doing a triathlon this year, and swimming is my weak link, but
Yeah.
it means that to get my rest days in, I'm doing a lot of 2-a-days to keep up with everything else.
Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah. But you're having like one full rest day
I'm taking
or
one
2?
full rest day. I'm taking one full rest day, and I'm taking one day where I probably am just doing an easy bike ride or just some pool laps. So I'm taking one full rest day and one rest day that's active rest.
Okay, that sounds great. Yeah, you gotta make sure like triathlon training, it's just there's so much, but yeah, recovery and rest is like
Yeah.
just as important as the training itself. So, we
And I
gotta
know when I'm overdoing it.
yeah.
My
Your
heart
body will
rate
tell
goes
you.
right up on my easy run. If my easy run is in
Uh-huh.
zone 5, I'm probably overdoing it.
You need a rest day.
Maybe take the day off.
Yeah.
So here's my one thought I have, and I'm curious to see what you think about it. So no one can see this on podcast. This is my training plan. So it looks like for the next race I have in October. And so it looks like I'm very detail oriented, and I kind of am. But at the same time, I may not do these runs in that order because I like to take my tempo runs, my slow days, and I like to run what I feel that day. So I sometimes switch those all around to run what I feel that day. Because if I have a speed day and I'm not feeling a speed day, I'm not going to run a speed day that day.
Uh-huh.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So
yeah.
I don't, what are your thoughts on doing that with the people you coach? Do you kind of help them kind of have more of a fluid approach to that, like run what you feel, or are you like stick by this, and this?
I mean, there's a certain, reason why we schedule things in that order, you know what I mean? But if somebody's they're not feeling a speed day, you don't want to push them to do a speed day. I mean, you could get injured, it's totally easy to switch things around. But yeah, like I said before, like I just I wouldn't move somebody's speed day and then have the tempo run be the following day. So it's like back to back
Right.
speed work.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? You just kind of rearrange things a little bit more. But yeah, absolutely. If you're not feeling a hard workout, you shouldn't totally like push yourself. You should listen to your body.
Right.
Yeah.
And listening to the body is usually sound advice with any training routine, I think.
Yes. Yep. You got to listen to your body. I mean, you work hard but you listen to your body. If it's telling you it's too much, then don't push it.
So if someone does want to, well, first off, where can people find you online? I know that you've got your Instagram, right?
Yes, it's Purely Driven Fitness on Instagram.
Right.
Yep.
And you said you do a lot of virtual coaching. So if somebody wants to reach out for a training plan, you'd work with them. How do you do that? Do you have people video their runs if they're not in Nashville and you're not able to meet up in person?
Well, not really. I don't really video them.
Okay.
I usually, we have different packages.
Okay.
Where, like I said, I work with my husband. We try to focus on hybrid coaching, which is the running aspect and the strength training aspect. But it's also, we do things separately as well.
Sure.
So for the running portion, I also do like a lot of programming for races and things like that. Yeah, which if somebody has a question as far as like forum or whatever and want to videotape themselves, that's absolutely,
Sure.
doable, and I'd love to see it. But yeah, it's more, coaching, setting up a program, yeah, incorporating strength training and
Absolutely.
nutrition, and yeah.
And how do you periodize the strength versus the running? Let's say that I want to do a marathon. I also want to bulk up. How would we periodize it? I mean, would you have me focus on strength training in the winter and then do my run leading up to maybe a fall marathon? How would you organize that?
Yeah, you do kind of have to make the decision. Like, we want to do everything, right? We
I
can't always do everything. Yeah, we
Don't
can't
tell me
always.
that. Just tell me when I could do everything.
So, like, I like to, if somebody's training for a race, that's their focus. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That is the running. We'll incorporate strength training in it, but it may have to take a back seat a little bit and have the running be the main focus as they're training for a specific goal race.
Okay.
And then if they're not training for a race, then we use that time to kind of focus on strength training.
Right.
So yeah, it's just kind of a
cycle throughout the year kind of thing, depending on what's going on and how much time you have to commit and all the rest of it.
Exactly.
Awesome. Yep. And if somebody does want to talk to you about coaching, how can they get in touch with you?
Through the Instagram is the best way. Purely Driven Fitness.
Purely Driven Fitness.
Yep, that's the best way to reach out.
I have one more question for you, and it's because Chris is always the kind of nuts and bolts physical trainer aspect of it, and I run because it's like basically my religion. I don't know, it's what I do because I just absolutely love to do it. So
yeah.
So talk a little bit about that, because it must be, obviously, if you have this passion to coach, you have a passion for running, and you get something very special out of doing it. So what is that very special thing you get from running? I just fell in love with it. And it's just, I mean, for me, it's like
helps my mental health. And,
Absolutely.
you know, I'm glad you brought this up because it's just like, you know, some people struggle with this because some people are, and I myself am included, you know, like you get goals in your head, right? And you just want to like, you know, you're training for something and you're working so hard and you want a PR and you want to like, you know, and then it can be disappointing. And sometimes that takes like the fun out of it. And so I don't know. I think it's important sometimes just to like forget about all that stuff and just like run for the joy of running, you know? I think we tend to get competitive and yeah, we just I don't know, have to remember why we started running and just it doesn't all have to be serious and yeah.
Exactly. When we were little kids, that's how we played. We ran around all the time, right? So like, I like to run with my dog. So people
Yeah.
were like, "Why do you like to run with your dog in the woods?" I was like, "Because I'm like 10 years old running in the woods with my dog, basically." It's like
Yeah,
there I
yeah.
am, you know? So
Yeah. I recently actually I started running with this team and they got me into wearing glitter on race day, which I thought was just really funny. And now it's become like this thing where like I will always wear glitter on race day. I know it sounds silly, but I'm like, it kind of just reminds me that like
it's fun.
this it's fun. Yeah, it's like should be a celebration of like all our hard work that we put in training all these months and everything. And yes, we want to do well and yes, we want to PR, but you know what? Like it's still fun and it's still a celebration. So that's what I need to remind myself and that's why I started wearing it.
That's awesome.
Keep it festive.
I like it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I like it a lot. That's
Oh,
great.
that's great. Well, Erin, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. This
Yeah,
was
thank you for
really interesting
having
for
me.
me.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is
well,
great.
hopefully, maybe next year when I start getting ready for the Pittsburgh Full. Oh, for those who don't know, we both ran the Pittsburgh Half Marathon a few weeks ago. She was in a much faster corral than I was, so we actually unfortunately did not see one another. She was probably already having lunch by the time I finished, but
No.
but next year I
No,
plan to do the full, so hopefully I can hit you back up for some tips when we get closer to that.
absolutely. Yeah, and hopefully
Wonderful.
I'll see you in Pittsburgh next year.
We'll make a point of it.
Yes, for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.